we're all aware of Moore's law. So this is not happening because people want to build billion-dollar companies as much. There's a Moore's law is at work here. So it's for 50 plus years, it's the increasing processor speed and the plummeting of prices. And this is impacting a lot of different areas right now, as the transistors were just two transistor counts in 1958. Now with Intel's in 2008, their Intel Core were 6,500 times faster, 4.2 million times cheaper, and a 27 billion-fold improvement in 47 years. So there's a reason for some of this acceleration across a lot of different industries, not just in our industry with servers, just that we run workloads for business in. With storage plummeting. Now it costs 5 megs back in the 50s, $120,000. Now we can get over a terabyte for $100. So there's a plummeting happening here. What's really interesting about this slide, because many of you have seen this, but now that I've added a different piece to this. So in the 1900s, this is what our computing capabilities were. And this is the price performance of a $1,000 laptop. But pay attention to like this 10 to the 10th power. And right about 2010 here, we're sort of at this 10 to the 10th power of computing capability. But now we're at 2018. So look at this right here. There are estimates in 2023 that 10 to the 8th power, so probably about 10 to the 3rd, right, 10 to the 4th right now, is that we'll be approximate the computing of our brain, of one brain. So we'll be able to buy a computer and it'll process roughly the speed of our own brain. And then in 2050, one computer will process if we keep these going along, the computing power, the human race. This is actually indicative of the human race. So one computer will have the processing power of all human beings on the planet. Because nuclear is coming online, we have we're sort of exceeding the chip capabilities now, but with nuclear coming online, I know it's $10 million to get a nuclear computer now, but that'll plummet just like it has been. And this is 30 years out from now. So it's just an interesting thing just to be aware of the trend and what's happening, in a short amount of time, because the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Life, kind of from a small cell form, 3.8 billion. Humans that resemble us from a face similarity are about 250,000 to 300,000, which is really only 0.004% of the total time that the Earth's been around. And our oldest writing that we can track is about 7,000 to 8,000 years old. Now, what's interesting is that's when our first writing happened. Well, the printing press really was an inflection point of when you had a class of folks that dominated the world of information, and they not only could consume it, but they could produce it. Consumption and production of information. And what's happened now is that we have things faster, cheaper of computing power, but it's impacting all of these areas simultaneously: networks and sensors, synthetic biology, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, virtual reality, and blockchain. But it's creating these really interesting areas of opportunity for us that I'm going to explore and kind of show you a wide cross-section of industries, even though you all probably understand that impact within your own vertical. What's the impact in other verticals is I find really interesting as we move forward. And so one of the biggest pieces is this collapsing, this dematerializing. One of the effects of exponentials is you take the physical and you make it, essentially you make it invisible. So you take all of these components, the video, the audio, the recording capabilities, the keyboard pieces, and you put that in someone's pocket 20 years later. And that's a big deal. And what that does is that essentially now it allows a company like Amazon with a piece of software to disrupt physical industry. It allows Uber to disrupt the physical taxi cab. It allows Skype to impact long distance and Airbnb. And I think you get the concept there. So it's a really important piece that we're accessing now, and how this democratizing access is important. So as you think about this, it's like, how can your own business take part in this? Because this is, when we don't dig trenches in Africa, they just put up cell phone towers, and then they have these phones that people can access to participate in the world economy. Remember the Gutenberg press moment? There was this, people didn't have access to the data. Now, boom, it democratizes access to information. And from the printing press, you can produce and read. Same thing's happening with phone. Now people can actually get access to the information, but not only access to the information, they can produce as well, which is an important concept. Connecting the globe. So as some of you I've talked to in the past, like are our boards thinking about going global? Because we're gonna have global connectivity with 5G coming online in or between 2019 and 2020. And Zuckerberg's putting gliders into space. Google's putting their balloons into space. Branson's putting satellites into low Earth orbit, all to connect the world. And the reason why this is important is because there's going to be another in 2017, there's 3.8 billion people on the planet. Just estimates 222 to 225, another 4.2 billion people are going to be connected, all with the ability to get information. So the real question is, with this growth, like how can we participate in it? Like how can our businesses participate in it? That's a doubling, like this internet thing. We thought this internet thing it's interesting. It's getting more interesting. We kind of thought it was like not necessarily game over, but it's really interesting when you put another 4 billion people into that. Oh, and it's interesting too. I grabbed this from Cisco. I wasn't going to use this slide, but there's going to be more people with mobile phones than by 2020 than have access to running water. I mean that's crazy when you think about that.
There's already more people with cell phones than have toilet systems.
Yeah. Yep. So there's some real challenges that we need to solve as the technology is going so quickly. So I like that kind of starting point just because it makes us ask, okay, how do we individually participate? How do we look at new business models that can be developed? How do we learn to take advantage of that and teach our businesses that we work with of where this opportunity lies for us? In addition to, so we just thought that was enough. This is getting interesting because we sort of have this global brain that's developing. And so we have our own brain. We have this computing power that's really getting interesting. And now we're going to be surrounded by sensors. And the sensors, 50 billion devices with 1 trillion sensors by 2020, with 500 billion plus 100 trillion. And I know you all go to conferences and see this a lot, but to me this is more about the change of how we're going to participate in this, not only from a governance and compliance, but how we're going to take advantage. Because if we can know anything, anytime, anywhere, we're essentially going to have satellites around the world. We're going to have drones that are being deployed. I was just at a race this weekend and they're flying a drone around the course. And I'm like, do we have to have a drone at the race? But this is going to be happening. Nobody asked for my permission. They're just going to run the drones. And we're going to have autonomous cars and we're going to have AR glasses. So we're connected. My wife didn't want to wait to change the water filter in the refrigerator. So she said, Alexa, I want to change the water filter. And here are the 8 steps you need to change the water filter. So you can know anything just by speaking into a device and it feeds back to you.